Playing with Power MTG. Powerful cards, powerful formats. Before we get into tonight's game, I wanted to ask a question. Do you have extra cards lying around that you don't use? Want to buy or trade for some extra cards but don't know how to maximize the value? Then you should try out today's sponsor, Card Conduit. Card Conduit is the best service when it comes to selling your extra cards. Don't waste hours trying to find the best buy list price for your cards online. Simply send them to Card Conduit and let them take care of the rest. I have used Card Conduit multiple times already. I always use them to get the best value for my extra cards. I get fair prices for my cards and they save me tons of time. They have three main services. Their standard service lets you send them your unsorted cards of any value. They will sort, grade, and give you the best price for your cards. Their curated service is similar. Send them your unsorted cards worth over $1 in value. They will charge half the fee of the standard service and charge no fee per card. Their sorted service is a great value as well. Choose cards in advance with their selection tool, send them sorted to Card Conduit, and they will grade and buy list them automatically. Save yourself the time of having to send to multiple sites and let Card Conduit do it instead. Their fee is only 2% with no fee per card. They give you the best price for your cards. They work with competitive buy listing partners, including ones not open to the public. Users get an average of 19% more for their collection than they would from any major retail buy list, even with Card Conduit's fees. Card Conduit also optimizes buy listing for card condition as well. Since vendors have different penalties for wear and tear, Card Conduit will find the best buy list priced against the specific condition of the card. So give Card Conduit a try today. If you sign up with my link in the description below or use the promo code POWER, you will also get 10% off of their fees when you use their service. A big thanks to Card Conduit for sponsoring today's video. Tonight the players are testing out some overlooked or forgotten commanders to see how they will do in a CEDH setting. So let's start out by showcasing our fighters this evening. First we have Kevin piloting Kozilek, the Great Distortion. This deck attempts to land its massive commander, control the board with its ability, and then end the game with one of many artifact combos. Kevin's opening hand contains a Thran Dynamo, Crystal Vein, Mirror Retriever, Sensei's Divining Top, Blast Zone, Ugin the Spirit Dragon, and a Mishra's Workshop. Next we have Jay piloting Karona, False God. This deck plays all the best cards and uses Dream Halls to get better ad nauseum payoffs. His opening hand contains an Exotic Orchard, Mox Opal, Volcanic Island, Windfall, Bloodstained Mire, Underworld Breach, and a Dark Ritual. After that we have Damien piloting Breya, Ethereum Shaper. This deck seeks to accrue advantage before generating infinite mana and burning out the table with its commander. His opening hand contains an Exotic Orchard, Mindbreak Trap, Soul Ring, Goblin Welder, Mystic Remora, Drannith Magistrate, and a Misty Rainforest. Finally we have Kyle piloting Sidisi, Brood Tyrant. This deck seeks to use its graveyard to its advantage. It either mills and recurs or uses Hermit Druid for blazing fast wins. His opening hand contains Heuristic Study, March of Swirling Mist, Brainstorm, Demonic Consultation, Deathrite Shaman, Scalding Tarn, and an Undergrowth Stadium. Without further ado, let's kick off this dastardly delicious diabolical duel. Kevin wins the hair pulling contest and gets to start us off. Kevin draws a card for turn and plays a Mishra's Workshop. He casts a Mirror Retriever. He casts a Sensei's Divining Top. He ships the turn to Jay. Jay draws and plays a Volcanic Island. He gives the turn to Damien. Damien draws and plays a Misty Rainforest. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Tundra onto the battlefield. He casts a turn 1 Mystic Remora. He ends his turn. Kyle draws and plays an Undergrowth Stadium. He casts a Deathrite Shaman. He passes. Kevin draws and plays a Blast Stone, entering with a charge counter. He casts a Thran Dynamo. Mystic Remora triggers and Damien draws. Kevin casts Prismatic Lens. Remora triggers and Damien draws again. Kevin activates his top, looking at and rearranging the top 3. He activates top, drawing a card and putting top on top. He casts Expedition Map and Damien draws again. Kevin ends his turn. Jay draws and plays a Bloodstained Mire. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up an Underground Sea onto the battlefield. He casts a Mox Opal. Remora triggers and Damien draws. Jay casts Dark Ritual. Remora triggers, Damien draws, and Jay adds 3 black. Jay casts Windfall. Remora triggers, Damien draws, and in response, Damien casts Mindbreak Trap for its alternate cost, exiling Windfall. With his plan to make Damien less threatening thwarted, Jay passes the turn. During Damien's upkeep, he lets his Mystic Remora die, and the rest of the table agrees that this is pretty bad. He draws and plays an Underground Sea. He casts a Soul Ring. He casts a Drannith Magistrate. He passes, discarding to hand size. Kyle draws and plays a Scalding Tarn. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Tropical Island onto the battlefield. He activates Deathrite Shaman, exiling a land from Damien's graveyard and adding a blue. He casts a Heuristic Study. He ships the turn. Kevin draws and plays a Crystal Vein. He casts Karn Liberated. Heuristic Study triggers and Kyle draws. He activates Karn's first ability, targeting Damien. Damien exiles a card from his hand, and then Kevin casts a Sensei's Divining Top. Heuristic triggers and Kyle draws again. Kevin passes. Jay draws and plays an Exotic Orchard. He casts Najila, the Blade Blossom, and the table shivers. Heuristic triggers and Kyle draws. Jay ends his turn. Damien draws and plays a Verdant Catacombs. He cracks it, pays a life, and fetches up a Scrubland onto the battlefield. He casts Smothering Tithe. Heuristic triggers and Kyle draws. Damien ships the turn to Kyle. Kyle draws Smothering Tide triggers and Damien creates a treasure. Kyle plays an Underground Sea for turn. He activates Deathrite Shaman, exiling a land from Damien's graveyard and adding a green. He casts Neoform, sacrificing Deathrite Shaman as an additional cost. In response, Damien casts Swan Song, targeting Neoform. Rhystic triggers and Kyle draws. Tithe triggers and Damien creates a treasure. In response, Kyle casts Dispel, targeting Swan Song. In response, Damien casts an Offer You Can't Refuse, targeting Neoform. Rhystic triggers and Kyle draws. Tithe triggers and Damien creates a treasure. An Offer You Can't Refuse counters Neoform and Kyle creates 2 treasures. The spell then resolves and counters Swansong. Next, Kyle casts Dark Ritual, adding 3 black. He casts a Necropotence. He activates Necropotence 20 times, paying 20 life and exiling 20 cards. He moves to his end step and puts the exiled cards into his hand. He passes, discarding to hand size, exiling the discarded cards, including an Eternal Scourge. Kevin draws, Tithe triggers, and Damien creates a treasure. He activates Karn's first ability, targeting himself, and exiles Ugin the Spirit Dragon from his hand, putting Karn at 14 loyalty. He gives the turn to Jay. Jay draws, Tithe triggers, and Damien creates a treasure. Jay moves to combat, attacking Damien with Najeela. Najeela triggers and creates a 1/1 warrior tapped and attacking Kyle. Both Damien and Kyle take the hit, and Jay passes. At the end of Jay's turn, Damien casts Mystical Tutor. Rhystic triggers, Kyle draws, Tithe triggers, and Damien creates a treasure. Mystical Tutor resolves, and Damien ominously fetches up a Tainted Pact onto the top of his library. The turn moves to Damien. Damien draws and cracks 2 treasures to cast Thassa's Oracle, paying the Rhystic tax. In response, Kevin sacrifices his Expedition map, fetching up a City of Traders into his hand. He then activates his top, looking at and rearranging the top 3. Oracle resolves, and with the trigger on the stack, Damien casts Tainted Pact, paying the Rhystic tax. In response, Kyle casts Swan Song. Swan Song resolves, Tainted Pact is countered, and Damien creates a 2/2 bird. With his win attempt resulting in a bird, Damien gives the turn to Kyle. At the end of Damien's turn, Kyle casts Brainstorm. He draws 3 and puts 2 back on top. Tithe triggers, and Damien creates 3 treasures. The turn moves to Kyle. Kyle skips his draw step due to Necropotence. In his main phase, he casts Assassin's Trophy, targeting Karn Liberated. In response, Kevin activates his top, looking at and rearranging the top 3. With no answers, Assassin's Trophy resolves, Karn is destroyed, and a sad Kevin has no basic lands to fetch. Kyle activates Necropotence 5 times, paying 5 life and exiling 5 cards. He moves to his end step and puts the exiled cards into his hand. He passes, discarding to hand size, exiling the discarded cards. Kevin draws, Tithe triggers, and Damien creates a treasure. In his main phase, Kevin plays the City of Traders. He casts Ecor Wellspring, paying for Rhystic. Ecor enters, and Kevin draws a card. Tithe triggers, and Kevin pays. He casts Torpor, paying for Rhystic. In response, Kyle casts Force of Negation, exiling a blue card, countering and exiling Torpor Orb. Next, Kevin activates top, drawing a card and putting top on top, paying for Smothering Tithe. Kevin ends his turn. Jay draws, Tithe triggers, and Damien creates a treasure. In his main phase, Jay casts Wishclaw Talisman. Rhystic triggers, and in response, Kyle casts Worldly Tutor, fetching up a Thassa's Oracle onto the top of his library. Then Jay doesn't pay for Rhystic, and Kyle draws. Tithe triggers, and Damien creates a treasure. Jay activates Wishclaw, fetching up a card into his hand and giving Wishclaw to Kevin. He moves to combat and attacks Kyle with Najeela and a warrior. Najeela triggers and creates 2 more warriors tapped and attacking Kyle. Kyle takes the hit, and Jay passes. Damien draws and casts Chain of Vapor, targeting his Thassa's Oracle and paying for Rhystic. In response, Kyle casts a Force of Will, paying a life, exiling a blue card, countering Chain of Vapor. Next, Damien casts Underworld Breach. In response, Jay casts his own Force of Will, paying a life, exiling a blue card, targeting Underworld Breach. Rhystic triggers and Kyle draws, then Tithe triggers and Damien creates a treasure. Force of Will resolves, countering Underworld Breach. Damien casts his commander, Breya, Ethereum Shaper, paying for Rhystic. Breya enters and creates 2 1/1 Thopters. Damien moves to combat, attacking Kyle with his bird, Thassa's Oracle, and Draneth. Kyle takes the hit, and in his second main phase, Damien activates Breya, sacrificing a Thopter, dealing 3 to Kyle, killing him. With nothing else, Damien ships the turn. Kevin draws, Tithe triggers, and Damien creates a treasure. In his main phase, Kevin activates Wishclaw, fetching up a card into his hand and giving Wishclaw to Jay. He casts Mox Diamond, discarding an Nephalia Academy. He casts Platinum Angel. The table wonders what to do next, and Kevin ends his turn. Jay draws, Tithe triggers, and Damien creates a treasure. In his main phase, Jay activates Wishclaw, removing the final counter and fetching up a card into his hand, giving the Wishclaw to Kevin. He casts Dockside Extortionist. It enters, and he creates 14 treasures. He casts Peer into the Abyss. Peer resolves, Jay draws half the cards in his library and loses half of his life rounded up. Smothering Tithe triggers, and Damien creates 42 treasures. Jay casts Chain of Vapor, targeting his dockside. In response, Damien sacks 2 treasures to pay 2 and then sacrifices 2 more treasures to activate Breya, targeting Jay, dealing 3 damage. He does this 5 more times, dealing a total of 18. He activates Breya again, targeting Jay. In response, Jay hardcasts Deflecting Swat, changing the target to Damien. Then Damien takes 3. With Chain of Vapor still on the stack, Damien activates Breya, dealing the final 3 damage to Jay, killing him. The turn moves to Damien. Damien draws and casts Savine's Reclamation, targeting Underworld Breach, returning it to the battlefield. He escapes Chain of Vapor, bouncing Thassa's Oracle to his hand. He floats a black, then sacks a land, copying the chain, targeting Platinum Angel. Angel bounces, Kevin sacks a land, copying the chain, targeting Underworld Breach. Breach bounces, and Damien stops the chain. He recasts Underworld Breach. He casts Thassa's Oracle. Oracle enters, and with the trigger on the stack, Damien escapes Tainted Pact, exiling his library. Oracle's trigger resolves, and Damien wins the game. Ladies and gentlemen, what a great game this evening. Congrats to Damien on his win. He was able to fight through the counters and wait for the perfect time to have a Thoracle victory. The most valuable card in tonight's game, sponsored by Luxury Playstyle, goes to Smothering Tithe. This classic treasure maker allowed Damien to bounce back from any setback that his opponents gave him, especially after one of them cast a Peer into the Abyss. Well, that about wraps it up for this episode. Tune in next time when we duke it out to see who will be king of the competitive EDH table. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.